Well, hey, good afternoon, everybody. Or we're just before the noon hour here. We're in the Chicago History Museum, but that's the Moody Church there, Clark and North here, corner of Lincoln Park, Chicago. This is Clark Street. So hey, we're inside the Chicago History Museum. You know, I rushed down here and I grabbed a gimbal. I grabbed the wrong gimbal, so it's going to be a little shaky camera here because I didn't realize it until I rode a bike down here because this is my lunch break from work. And we've gone here before. I want to check it out here, and I already checked in my code here. They're installing a new display here. They got a lot of interesting old signs and things here. Chris, how you doing? Look at this. The Haymarket Square, Burkhoff's, Rock Island Route. Look at this train here. So I'll try to keep the camera as steady as possible. It probably helps that I'm not walking that fast. We'll kind of go really slow here. But hey, welcome to Chicago. Welcome to the Chicago History Museum here. And we'll give you an overview of this whole thing. Say they got some children's stuff. We'll stay out of there. But you know, they got these dioramas, and we'll probably end with those. I'll probably head up to. In the wind and the rain last night, he said he got pretty wet. He didn't even use his gimbal either because it probably would have got all wet. We're here at Chicago Crossroads of the America, the Exelon wing. Yeah, they got some beautiful stuff back here. I remember the last time I was here, if you just joined the Chicago History Museum here in Chicago, Illinois, we got the life mask of Abraham Lincoln. This mask, that's the really honest part here. Lincoln, Chicago trolley thing here. And hey, welcome to the land of Lincoln here, Chicago, Illinois. We're in the you're streaming okay. Hey, the old trolleys. I remember when Chris and I trolleys like this. The bull. So I guess you can walk up here. Let's check out the display. There. That's the old image for State and Madison, right in the loop there. That they think that photo was staged, but it shows how congested it probably did get at times. In the loop of Chicago in the old days. Yeah, they got the Chicago Northwestern Railroad, an old locomotive. We'll check that out. Yeah, Izzy, how you doing? One gold Nubian there. We're at the Chicago History Museum here. I decided to fork over the dough. Actually, it's a pretty nice day. The sun came out. We could have just streamed walking around, but we'll check out the History Museum here in Chicago. Chicago's L Fitness. So I guess at certain times they got it cordoned off. They don't want people going in there, but we got inside some of the trolleys. Actually, some of the trolleys actually are still on tracks there in Union, Illinois. You can ride them around the place, and we did that. Various World's Columbian Exposition film of it, early days of film. Who remembers the Nickelodeons? History school. Yeah, thanks for checking us out here. So again, I'll repeat myself several times so that I know people come in and join. And I asked them about, it's okay filming in here and recording, you just don't know flash photography. There's one exhibit of Emmett Till where there's some historical photo on loan from the family. They asked not to, because of copyright reasons, not to film that. So I'll describe it when we get to it. I think it might be right here. Let's go over here. So here's the KPMG and Paul Catherine Snyder Gallery, Emmett Till here. So we'll be careful here. And I don't know which photograph it is, but of course Emmett Till. This was a very tragic event, and it was there's his mother, the gruesome pictures of what happened to him. You can research this on your own. Here, Emmett Till, of course, he was killed in the South. This was the civil rights era, the beginning of the 60s. the family chose to have an open casket to show, and this made national headlines at the time. And beginning of the 60s here. And yeah, I don't know. I'm worried about they asked not to. There's some of this stuff's on loan from the family, so I want to respect that. And so you can check this out on your own. Injustice, the trial for the murder of Emmett Till. Here, this is the Chicago History Museum, and here's a portrait of Archibald J. Motley Jr. No, that's this guy. Who is this? Is this M.V. Motley? I guess. Okay, that's part of his family there. Archibald J. Portrait of my mother. This is his mother. So this is Archibald J. Motley Jr.'s mother. Moved from New Orleans to Chicago. So hey, Maxwell Street, Sweet Home Chicago. There it shows the patchwork quilts of the neighborhood. See, look, Lincoln Park, Old Town. That's right where we're at here. Yeah, they got theaters and things here. Here, the neighborhood map of Chicago. Yeah, great exhibit. I agree. Look at that. The Chicago neighborhood map here. Patchwork quilt of neighborhoods all over Chicago here. I think you can buy posters of this map. Here, the flag of Chicago. So often when I walk across the Chicago River, people will notice all the flags, the Illinois flag, the United States flag, and they'll see the Chicago flag. People mistake it for Israeli flag. They'll see the Ukrainian flag and they're like, why is Chicago flying the Ukrainian flag? I know but I think they took those down. See, look, by the late 1930s, Chicago was sharply divided by race, and we know this. This had to do back to the redlining that shows the black belt, African American areas. Look, it says foreign-born areas, and that included like Pilsen, the Eastern European, the Italian, and even Irish neighborhoods at that time. It says 50% former native white. What does that mean? What does that mean, 1930s? What is the difference between foreign-born and native white? This wasn't Hispanic in the 1930s. There was a small Hispanic communities, but not as large. These areas are largely Hispanic now, but at that time they were Eastern European, Polish, Italian, Irish, German, all these other immigrant groups. And at that time, native white probably meant like back to the English, the Scots-Irish, and the colonial people. But these people moved further out, and then it's all changed. This is the 1930s, the Great Migration, and stockyards. This is Chicago. This is America. Richard J. Daley, 1968. We're at the Chicago History Museum here, Chicago, Illinois. Thanks for tuning in. We got 1207. We're indoors. Outdoors, it's low 40s. We got some rain overnight. It got to 58 degrees overnight. Can you believe that? Was anybody affected by the rain or the flooding? I saw some storm sewers backed up. Here's the bust of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We saw the bust of Abraham Lincoln, and this is the face mold of, well, I guess it's a sculpture. The thing we saw of Abraham Lincoln was actually a plaster mast. Shows the 1968. It wasn't just the hippies fighting the 68 Democratic Convention in Chicago. The whole world's watching. It also was the civil rights riots after Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. 1968 was a very tumultuous year. Robert Kennedy was assassinated, the brother of JFK. And before that, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated the same year. And they'll probably show the police right here, the infamous scenes, the Chicago police, then Mayor Daley calling the police to use their batons to bash the heads in of the hippie protesters that gathered in Grant Park in 1968. Before that, they gathered in Lincoln Park, and then they moved down towards the Blackstone and the Hilton Hotel. We go down there when I show that statue. These are infamous, famous scenes here that get repeated over and over outside the Democratic Convention. Smoke-filled room. See how they got the paddy wagon? They're starting to just round people. Does this look like what's going on Minneapolis. You know, isn't it amazing? We're reliving some of these things right now, where we got massive protest in at least the Chicago. There he is. There's Mayor Daley, the first there, Richard J. Daley. Does anybody remember this? Am I streaming? The whole world is watching. There it is. Look at that. So hey, Chicago History Museum. Here are the old hippie posters, psychedelic posters. Here's Al Capone. This talks about, look at the gangland the territories. John Torrio shot down by gunmen. Dean O'Banion and Bugs Moran. See how Dean O'Banion and Bugs Moran were associated with North Side gangs. O'Banion's shop, that was Schofield's. Al Capone's house was, look, we went to Al Capone's home. They got it on here, Torrio. They ran the South Side syndicates. Al Capone ran the South Side. They were the Guinea brothers. We talk about where they were killed, Guilfoyle. And look at all these other gangs that, isn't that amazing here? And the Grizzly Air, Stills, and there's Al Capone, and there's Dean O'Banion. I think that's Vincent Drucci. No, that's Jaime Weiss, and is that Bugs Moran? I'm not for sure. And one of these guys is Vincent Drucci, but there's Al Capone, and some of the other Guinea brothers and things from the Prohibition era. The Eastland disaster. Remember how we talked about the Eastland disaster when we're on the Chicago Riverwalk? It's between LaSalle and Clark Street there. 919 bodies recovered. It rivaled the disaster of the Titanic. Whole families trying to recover the bodies. There's a chair from the Eastland disaster. Here we're at the Chicago History Museum here. Yeah, the riots in 1919. There were race riots. This is all part of Chicago's history here. And the Haymarket, the Haymarket accused that were hanged. We've gone to this. It's over near the West Loop. We may need to check out some of these other things here. The Haymarket and in Chicago. Here's the Water Tower. So this goes through events in the Chicago history. We're in the Chicago History Museum. Yeah, rough times. Yeah, good afternoon, Christy, XRT fan. How's everybody doing here? I know I'm missing people here. Hopefully, Jeremy, how's everybody doing? Here's, you know what this is? This is the Water Tower. There's the old fire alarms. Hey, the Great Chicago Fire. So this is all going back in time through the Chicago history. The Great Chicago Fire, look how much was destroyed. See, that's what, like St. James Church and, you know, just the bell towers and things, they had to redo the roofs. And same with St. Michael's. Look, this reminds you of the Relic House. Remember when Jennifer Ishidi talks about the Relic House, they would show things that were burned and melted and salvaged from the Great Chicago Fire. And the Water Tower is one of the few things that survived. And going back to Chicago's early days here. But here, let's check out this train. We checked out this trolley. If you just joined, we're in Chicago. We're at the Chicago History Museum here. That interesting displays here. Bears play, Green Bay Packers. Hey, here's the old Fort Dearborn. So this is Fort Dearborn was destroyed by River Bridge. Bogging across the snow there. Marquette and Joliet, 1673, 1680s, they came through here. Found the portage to the Mississippi. There's the old Native American chief here. And that's the only, that no one knows for sure what he looked like. This was an artist's interpretation of what John Baptiste Point de Sable looked like. To me, he looks like a mixed race African American from his mother and French from his father. That's my opinion. No one knows for sure. We know his wife was Potawatomi. His wife's name was Kitty Hawa, and they had children, which are potentially, you know, French combined with African American combined from. of their mind, like in New York, East Coast, Canada, came to the United States, or it came to Chicago as it grew on the frontier. But hey, Chicago History Museum here. Look at this locomotive. Yeah, Christy's tuning in. You like this history? Naya Papaya. How's everybody doing there? Margie. Thanks everybody here. So let's see what else we got here. Hey, we got the stockyards. Look at this chair made out of cattle horns. Remember, we went to the Fort Worth stockyards and saw the long horns. These horns aren't as long, but what a stinky, nasty job it was working at the stockyards, Union stockyards here. See the leather, the shoes, you know, Buffalo Bill. We went there. We went to Canaryville. We went to the Union stockyards there, and we filmed the old stockyard gates. There it is, Union stockyards of Chicago. We went right to the gate there. Where's it at? Right along here, the Union stockyard gate. And look how large it used to be. They had the big, see, that was the International Amphitheater. They used it just like in Fort Worth stockyards. They would showcase the livestock, and then later they used it for political conventions. In 1968, that's what they used for the Democratic Convention. They went down to where the stockyards, and before they built, or they just started to build McCormick Place, the newer convention center. There's the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, that's what I call it there. You still see that driving around. But hey, the Chicago History Museum here. Yeah, they got railroad stuff. How we doing on time? 12:18. So hey, thanks for checking out the History Museum. All the furniture that was made here. Unionization. WSW. Look at these clocks. The breweries. They talk about the breweries. Chicago once made more beer than Milwaukee. Can you believe that? All the beer barons, and a lot of them were German. Built those amazing houses. See, Wacker, the Wacker and Burke Brewing Company, Chicago, USA. There it is. That was Frederick Wacker and his son Charles Wacker. The steel mills, South Shore, old steel mills of Chicago. Had to wear the boots. Making foundries, making railroad wheels. Here, the old stock exchange, the commodities market. Remember the Board of Trade, the color-coded jackets, the open outcry, the hand calls, or the hand signals. There it is, the Board of Trade. We always go visit the Board of Trade there. So I think, is my connection not? My connection must be bad. Let's see if they got a Wi-Fi here. Let's see if we got a Wi-Fi at the History Museum here. So let me go to the front here. Let me see if I can get a Wi-Fi. I'll remember this next time to use the Wi-Fi, and then I'll hopefully bring my gimbal the next time we come here, and we can do a better job covering this museum here. So hold on a second. I'm going to go down and see if I can get the Wi-Fi password. I wish I would have thought of that. And kind of this over again, and we'll give you a overview of the dioramas. We'll go back here. So hey, if you just joined here, we're in the Chicago History Museum. I think my connection was cutting out. I finally switched to the museum Wi-Fi, so we'll go through this again. I'll give you an overview of what we already saw later. But welcome to the Chicago History Museum here. And Bonnie found Wi-Fi. I'm without my gimbal here, so the History Museum. And so hey, let's try this again here. I just reconnected to the Wi-Fi, and so we'll see if we can get a connection. Look, they got a map of Chicago here on the floor, so hopefully my connection will hold this time. We got the Wi-Fi here going at the Chicago History Museum, so I'll spend the next half an hour, 40 minutes showing you this museum here. Thanks for tuning in. Facing Freedom in America, they got a exhibit here, so we'll check this out. And struggle, race and citizenship, public, Japanese internment, who's the enemy. They got all these displays here. American Indian movement. Support the struggle for hereditary rights. Yeah, join the People's Committee. Civil War goes back to the Civil War. United Farm Workers, Workers of the World Unite. Join the boycott. First, Pullman Boarders and Maids. Yeah, 1920s. We've gone down the Pullman. So hey, they got these nice displays here. The Chicago history. Europe. Here, the Great 84. Stream with my the same places I can't stream with my cell phone tower data. I can't stream with. I found the password to the Chicago Historical Society Wi-Fi, but even those dioramas that I want to film, I got reruns of it already. It won't stream them. So here, let's check out the Chicago protest art. We checked this out last year. I'm gonna cruise through it really quickly. I really like. We caught the tour last time. I think that's what's going on there. They have a tour for the Chicago protest art of the 60s and 70s. Here, if you just join, we're in the Chicago Historical Society. Now I realize why I don't go to as many museums. I have the same problem when I try to film in the Field Museum or other museums. I lose my connection even if I'm on the Wi-Fi. It's just these rooms and thick walls are so hard to maintain a connection. So we'll do the best we can. Thanks for staying on there. Hopefully we'll get the connection back here. So hey, look at this Dia de los Muertos here. We're in the Chicago Historical Society. I got to show this to Ernesto. Look they got the skeletons. Look at this. So what is this? This is a Dia de los Muertos to celebrate throughout Latin America. A holiday remember the deceased loved ones, rooted in indigenous tradition, mirrors hybridization and mingling of indigenous Catholic roots through Spanish colonization in Latin America. The offerings, yeah, respect the memory of the loved ones. Here, printing press, the lithographs. Look at that. The nice dresses, the shoes. Yeah, the murals that we see in Pilsen. Yeah, look at that. We've been to that. We filmed all these murals. We've gone down to Pilsen and other areas. We filmed the dance museum here. Here, Jesus Chewy. So hey, this goes on and on here. So I want to show these posters because we filmed them last September, and I got a rerun of it. We caught a tour. And I want to quickly show you, give an overview. See, there's the Puerto Rican flag over Division Street, Humboldt Park. We filmed that. We've gone over there and filmed the, is the connection better now? A few people coming back. I know I lost my connection. I went on the Wi-Fi. I keep trying to film those dioramas, and I keep losing my connection. So, welcome to Chicago. Welcome to the Chicago History Museum here. We're on the second level here. We got 26 here. I want to show you this. There's this really nice display of protest posters here from the 60s and 70s. Chicago protest art. And they start with the Chicago Freedom Movement. See that V for victory? You know, start with the civil rights marches through the South and West Side here. And there's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Here's Ebony and Jet magazines were produced in Chicago. When we walked onto the South Loop, we show you the mid-century modern building where Ebony and Jet were published. Here, look at this. Margaret Burroughs, the bookstores, Hoyt Fuller, Ellis Bookstore, Wendell Books. There's Malcolm X, a artist rendering here. Black arts movement thrived in Chicago in the 60s and 70s. Wall of Respect. Yeah, this was on the south side. Fortunately, I think this is no longer there. They had a mural there, the Wall of Respect, and there's so many murals there in Bronzeville on the south side. Stop the war. Yeah, we showed some of the 1968 Democratic Convention film here. Hey, Chicago, see, this is real hippie stuff. This is like the, you know, you heard of Rolling Stone magazine. Well, Rolling Stone started out like this. It was a hippie publication, kind of an alternative media. And Seed was the one here in Chicago. Look, Chicago, Volume 8, Number 6. This was old, like the Reader, or you could get these at head shops or hippie stores that participated in the counterculture of that time. And the Seed, Stop the War Machine. Look at that, the dragon, see psychedelic influences. The eye, look at that. Hey Lambie, how you doing there? Christy, D. Michael, we streaming okay? I don't know. Look, we are the people. SDS, Students for a Democratic Society here. So that was like the Berkeley, a lot of, yeah, so here we're to the true war protest. It's the Women's Liberation Union, Women's Liberation. These are protest posters. This is a exhibit here within the Chicago Historical Society here. Women are not chicks. Look at that. It's about the war machine there as we expand the military budget again this year. Boycott lettuce and grapes. Yeah, it's for maybe the Chicano movement. Chicago Maternity Center, women's, you know, help, resources for women and families. Sisterhood is blooming. Springtime will never be the same. Look at these. National Alliance of Black Feminists. Look at this. So this is a protest poster display here in the Chicago Historical Society. We're going through it here. Women for Peace, Peace Mural, Mural Pause. We're just giving you a brief overview of what's in here. Chicago Historical Society. Sisterhood is blooming. See, you got to fight for your rights here. We all benefit from the sacrifices that all these groups made. Gay Power, the early LGBTQ movement that started in 1969, the Stonewall Uprising in New York City. And, you know, we often walk past the Henry Gerber, you know, where he lived there on Crilly Court in Old Town. Why is that significant? In the 1920s, he published one of the first, if not the first, recognized publication that advocated for gay rights in the United States, and he was put in jail because of that. It was considered obscene to even mention that it was okay, you know. And that was Henry Gerber, and that was all before this. See, get to the modern George Floyd. Isn't it amazing that what's going on in Minneapolis right now is just a few blocks away from where George Floyd was murdered by police at that time, and now it's ICE. And history like repeats itself, you know, in different ways. You know, we'll mention the name of Renee Nicole Good. So it's a tragedy. We got to mention George Floyd and now Renee Nicole Good, and shows it's, you know, it's not just about race, it's about human rights for all people, women, men, people of all backgrounds, races, creeds. And education is a right. Support public schools. And we're streaming. I don't even know if I'm streaming here. We got military. People were drafted in the military just like my dad. And he was like, he was amazed how quickly the social changes happened when he was in the Vietnam War. He left in 67, came back in 71, and he was like, man, the country changed a lot. And so, hey, this is nice display here, the posters. Yeah, stream is clear. Good, thanks, Margie. Good. So hopefully it's better now that I switched to the Wi-Fi. I know I was cutting in and out there at the beginning. We tried to, did any of that in the beginning stream? We streamed like the trolley and some of the Chicago history stuff. We got 1238 here. Yeah, a key in Chicago here. So we started looking at this. We'll cruise through this really quickly here, and let's see what this is about here. So a key in Chicago celebrates the historic and cultural presence of Latino communities in Chicago from the 1800s to the present. This exhibit honors Latino communities in Chicago. So here, let's check it out here. Yeah, look at this. Wow, look at this. Look at this amazing statue of Virgin Our Lady of Guadalupe, and see how the indigenous is combined with the true mestizo culture, and goes back to the Spanish colonial period. Who is Latino in Chicago? Here are the faces of Latinas and Latinos here. Look at that. Wow, look at this board. This was a switchboard from El Paso, the old telephone switchboards. The one ring-a-dingy, two ring-a-dingy. The women, usually women that had to work the switchboards there for the telephone company. So there's a tour going on here. Let's see if we can get on this tour, see what these people are saying here. The Chicago History Museum here.
In the United States and in Chicago in particular. So that's this side of the gallery. So after, all the folks coming from the Mexican Revolution settled here and got
Harrison High School, Student Uprising, 1968. See, this is movement in the 60s. Look at all these murals here. Wow.
60% of them were U.S. So if that sounds familiar, that's where we are, right?
Hey, they got the quinceanera dresses here. Wow, look at that.
That program ran for 8 years. During 6 of those years, the U.S. was also running so-called Operation Wetback, which...
See, I mentioned that. Remember, I mentioned that Operation Wetback. You just mentioned it, and I got flagged. It was a real thing.
And was now sweeping people up off the streets by the thousands. If you come over to this beautiful book here, this is one of our Sanborn maps in our collection. This big rectangle is the former Studebaker car factory where the U.S. Air Force commandeered this space to hold the thousands of people that it was arresting and kidnapping, much like today in Broadview, and they would then fly them by a military helicopter to the U.S.-Mexico border and then on a train to points south in Mexico. So one of the things that's important as historians for us to think about with these materials over here is that it is very difficult to tell these stories. These are, to me, these are cool materials. To you, they're cool materials. But this is not sexy, right? This is not a big, sexy object. This is really difficult because once the people are gone, how do you find the traces of their stories? We've had to come in at a slant looking for these materials from a sideways standpoint, you see what I'm saying? So we talked about wars, work, and sanctuary. We're rounding the bend in the sanctuary. So the Chicago was one of the first cities in the sanctuary movement nationally, 1982, and now we're in the third wave of that sanctuary movement. So remember back to the Guatemalan coast I pointed out. Well, here are the Guatemalan coast taking refuge in Chicago as they flee that civil war, right? That was the first wave of sanctuary. So over here, this guy, Tomas, actually fled his town when the military took it over and started torching everything and killing everyone, which is documented in that book of images there. He fled through the jungle, through Belize and Mexico with his family carrying a marimba, because that's their national instrument, and that is his precious cultural patrimony. And here it is with his family in Chicago. So
we went down there. That's the ore wall on the south shore. That's the steel CSX site there. The steel mills on the south side of Chicago. That's the Eisenhower Expressway. That's 290 heading west. That's UIC when they were building. They tore all this down. This used to be Little Italy in the West Loop. You can see the United Center. But here we're in the Chicago Historical Museum here. We're checking out this exhibit about Latino culture here in Chicago and how long it's been here. And she was talking about the previous deportation things that happened in the 1950s.
The blue section was really all about local responses to national and international realities. This green section is all about the many different creative.
See, brown people for Black Power. There's the little village gate. We've gone there. It's 26th Street.
To, hate crime, race-based violence, state-sponsored violence on the part of the police, to COVID and environmentalism. And so, yeah, that sounds heavy.
Yeah, she was talking about Operation WETBACK. It happened in the 1950s. I got to be really careful. I've gotten flagged for mentioning that on TikTok because it's that's now used as a pejorative. The reason that term wet back is a pejorative. The CIA had an operation called that in the 50s where they deported over 1 million people. That's what she was talking about, and that affected Chicago. She was showing how in the 50s they had deportation centers like Broadview where they would collect people and fly them out and put them on ships back to Mexico. This was in the 1950s. And history repeats itself. We're going through another period like that, the jingoistic, what is whiteness? It just kills me that we're just going through this again. And I don't mean to be getting political. This is history. History is, it rhymes, and America goes back and forth, So thanks for, our lack of ability to evolve past this violence is harrowing. It's true, Margie. It's depressing. But thanks for tuning in to the portion of the Chicago Historical Society. What we looked at before, just in case they got the death. Well, it's not the death mask. It was made before he died. It was Abraham Lincoln's head. He must have sat down for a plaster of Paris. That's actually Abraham Lincoln's head there. And look, 1865. It's a plaster copy of the original mask made by Clark Mills on February the 11th, 1865, which was before he was assassinated, because he was assassinated in April 14th and 15th, 1865. And there's the bed. He was too tall. They had to turn him sideways when he was on his deathbed because he was 6'6". This is the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. We're in the second floor of the Chicago Historical Society here.
And the issue of slavery deeply divides the country. Lincoln believes that slavery is wrong and doesn't support abolition. It's clear that such a thing will destroy the country. His views appeal to many northern voters, and his supporters stage dramatic nighttime rallies.
So we got 1247. I'll show you. You can overlook. This is the entrance. This is looking towards Clark Street. This is the Clark Street entrance to the Chicago Historical Society here in Chicago, Illinois. We got January the 9th, 2026 here. We went through here earlier. Hopefully some of it streamed before. I know my connection was cutting in and out. The same when I tried to stream. The dioramas are really almost impossible to stream. I'm on the Historical Society Wi-Fi here, so hopefully the connection's a little smoother here. They got this trolley. And then, we didn't go through here. Let's go through the Chicago sports memorabilia stuff here. So there's the Chicago Cubs fly the W here. Talk about the Chicago Cubs, who used to be the White Sox, and they changed to the Chicago Cubs, and then the Chicago White Sox for an expansion team. National Girls Baseball League. Look at that. Actually, you saw that. There was a movie about that. And there, the White Sox 1959 World Series official program. Chicago Cubs. Hey, there's some seats from Wrigley Field. I know some people that got those on their back porch. They were able for charity to buy when they changed out some of the seats in Wrigley Field. You could buy the old Wrigley. Hey, the Bears. So the Bears play the Green Bay Packers on Saturday night. There's the old Bears helmet. Super Bowl 20. That was the Super Bowl Shuffle. Remember the Super Bowl Shuffle? We need to bring it back. Look at that old football there. There's the Bulls. There's the Dream Team right there. The second three-peat there, because it's got Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan there. Hey, they're playing the Bears. Bear down, Chicago Bears. Hey, we got this. It says Chicago White Sox there. That's 2005. I remember when they won the World Series there. White Sox there. Century of Progress, 1933. So there was the 1893 World's Columbia Exposition, which was on the south side of Chicago. This was at Northerly Island. So remember, we ride the bike out there. They later made it Meigs Field, which was an airport. But then now it's a park. And they removed the airport. That's the Adler Planetarium. And this was the Century of Progress World's Fair in 1933. It was during the Great Depression. They had the Sky Ride. Super Bowl Shuffle. You got the record. Yeah, that's right. You could buy the record. It was a huge thing. And the amazing about the Super Bowl Shuffle, they made it before they even went to the playoffs. They were like, are we going to jinx ourselves? Because that was such a great season. They lost that one game to Miami, and that was it. Otherwise, they would have had an undefeated season. The 85-86 Bears there. So here, Century Progress. Look, they had a giant building with a thermometer. That was a building there in the Century Progress. Hey, they had a parachute ride. They had... so where Parkway Gardens is, everybody asked me to go to O Block, which is 63rd and Martin Luther King Jr. Drive on the south side of Chicago. You can take the Green Line. There used to be an amusement park there. They recreated it to make it look like the World's Columbia Exposition, but it was notorious. It was segregated, even in Chicago in the 20s, and people bring that up. But it didn't make it through the Great Depression. They shut it down, and then they tore it down, then they built housing there. It became Parkway Gardens, which people refer to as O Block because O.D. Perry was killed there in the drill hip-hop community. Hey, Buffalo Bills, Wild West. There's the Wizard of Oz. Of course, Frank Baum lived in Chicago when he wrote those books, but then he wasn't born, or he was just here briefly. But here's the World's Fair, the World's Columbia Exposition, Midway Plaisance. They were in the Chicago Historical Society here. So you see the amount of stuff they got in here. It's a really, I'll have to come back. I don't have my gimbal. I'll make sure the next time I come back, I'll bring my Wi-Fi. We'll do this again and do a more coherent overview. Hey, Chicago Jazz and Blues. Yeah, it's B.B. King, Duke Ellington, B.B. King. Legendary stars here. Muddy Waters. Kings Club, Waveland Avenue. Chicago Blues All-Stars. Oh, remember these puppets on TV? What was it? Ozzy and what was it called? Fran and Ollie. Kukula, Fran and Ollie. Anybody remember this? The puppets. Yeah, the puppets on TV. Of course, the Bozo the Clown. You know, it's all. See, this is like a jazz club here. Look at this, Chicago Jazz and Blues. There's Muddy Waters right there. The Great Migration. And so, you know how we filmed Buddy Guy? Buddy Guy played with Muddy Waters when he was younger, and he was like his mentor in the blues. And that's why I made sure Ernesto and I'm glad that Grim Evil showed up too. We got to see Buddy Guy perform with his daughter. We got reruns of that at Navy Pier last fall. The Playboy Club. Look at this poor woman that had to work at the Playboy Club in the 60s. But maybe, you know, some women really enjoyed it. You know, they still got the uniforms and stuff. Hugh Hefner, there were Playboy clubs all over. And, of course, Chicago was the original headquarters of the Playboy publishing empire before. They still kept the tower here. He moved his operations to Beverly Hills. Here, the Edgewater Beach Hotel. So the apartments are left, but they tore down the hotel in Edgewater here, the Edgewater Beach Hotel. And there's old postcards of it here. Second to none here, Chicago Community Trust and Gallery. It shows you how vast this museum is here. They got all this Sears Roebuck, Montgomery Ward, yeah, all the mail order stuff, Marshall Field, Crate and Barrel. See, Crate and Barrel came from Chicago. The original store was on Wells Street in Old Town. I learned that by watching Jennifer You Should Eat. Here's the Chicago food. Hey, there's Mayor Daley on Time Magazine. There, look at that. Colin Powell, World Book, encyclopedias. This replicates the the stock exchange, the old Chicago Stock Exchange. Remember Louis Sullivan? Here, the Sears Tower. There, Fosler Khan, Sears Tower, John Hancock, all the architecture of Chicago. Some of the old buildings here. Sears Tower, John Hancock. These are the Mies van der Rohe buildings on Lakeshore Drive. They were built in 1949. Imagine how modern that looked in 1949, because before that, this looked modern, but then that looked dated by then. That's the Reliance building we did at State and Madison. There's the original Stock Exchange building. I think they tore that down. Home Insurance building, that's the first skyscraper. They tore that down. We're showing some of the interior design and architectural elements here in the Chicago History Museum here. Thanks for checking it out. Is my connection okay? Yeah, Sarah, how you doing there, George? Father Time? Thanks for checking out the History Museum here. Adler and Sullivan. Louis Sullivan, Donkmar Adler. They were partners. There's Louis Sullivan. We always talk about Louis Sullivan. There's his partner. And look at the detail. The amazing detail of Louis Sullivan. Here's some architectural elements. And there's the auditorium building. That's Roosevelt University. That's the inside there. There's the Congress Hotel. That's the auditorium building. There it is with the tower. We filmed that. Here's the Garrick Theater. They tore that down. He salvaged some of the materials. Same with the Stock Exchange there. Here's some of the Louis Sullivan. So we'll have to come back. We'll have to come back here. The next time I'll make sure I switch to the Wi-Fi right at the beginning. And I'm refreshing my memory about how many things are in here, how vast this museum is, the Chicago History Museum here in Lincoln Park, Chicago, near the Gold Coast and Old Town. So as we leave here, we got 1256. I'll go back down to the ground level. I'll show you this main room here with the trolleys and the trains. And then I'll show you there's a cafe, there's a bookstore, and we'll exit this thing. But we'll be back. I got to get back to work. It's Friday. I know I missed the stream this morning and last night. We'll probably do a live stream tonight. We'll just walk around the neighborhood, maybe back here. Let's see if my ticket still works later today. Hey, milking the cow. Yeah, see, there's the Saturday Evening Post cover. That clock there on the old Marshall Fields, which is now the Macy's. See, there's the guy. That's the actual photo, and then they made it look like that. Same with the woman milking the cow here. There, you can get on this train. You can go right up there and get on the back of this train. Yeah, Susie, thanks for tuning in. Sarah, sorry I wasn't interacting with the comments here. I'm just trying to give an overview of this museum here. And, yeah, it's hard to get enough subscribers to start streaming. I struggle with the same thing. So here's the old Fort Dearborn, but now we're, there's, one of the main, we're on the second floor here. So let me head back down to the first, and we'll show you the gift shop and we'll show you there's a cafe at the other end. This is the Chicago Historical Society. And I really want to show those dioramas, but I'll have to, what I had to do last time, I had to film them. I'll find the old footage. I think it's on YouTube and Landscape. And we already filmed those dioramas. I think I posted some reruns. But here's I'll come back and get my coat. Actually, let me get my coat right here. Actually, I'll come back and get it. So here, let's go show the cafe and the let's show the cafe and the store over here. Yeah, there's always something to learn. Tea time. You know, we could have walked around. The weather's pretty nice right now. The wind calmed down. I said, "Oh, let's go over to this historical site." Then I forget. I got a gimbal, but it's an old gimbal that's dead, and I couldn't get a connection. And so here, let's head over here. We'll show you the cafe, and we'll show you the. So there's a cafe here at the Chicago Historical Society. There's a gift shop. And if you go to the back here, you can sit here, and you can overlook this fountain, the children's fountain. This is at the corner of Clark Street and North. And yeah, they got this. This is the old. I think this is a portion of the old Union Stockyards gate. See how they got the cows there, this arch, and they got the old, let's see what this says here. So the Chicago Historical Society here. This is a terracotta arch from the Union Stockyard 1888. And they recreated here, and you can get something at the cafe and sit at these tables and look at this thing. That's cool, yeah, look at that. I guess you can go up to the second level, you can sit up there. I've been here before where they had a piano in here and people would play the piano, but I don't know if that still goes on here. Let me show you the view out the window here so you can see where we're at. So there's the children's fountain right there. You can see that's the Latin school that's looking down Clark Street south, and this is North Avenue, and this is Clark Street this way. So let's check out the bookstore here, gift shop. There it is. We'll see if we can get in there. They got a nice cafe here, North and Clark Cafe, that's what they call it. That place is sitting here. Here's the gift shop, the store at the Chicago Historical Museum. Hey, you can get the old hats here. Look at the beautiful, get your 30s hats, get your fedora. Hey, they got all your Blackhawks and Bulls, Benny the Bull. You can get your Chicago Sky mascot. They got keychains, they got handbags. You get your dress models there. They got books. Get some jewelry. This is the gift shop at the Chicago Historical Society here. I'm just giving you an overview of what's here. You get some shirts, buttons, CTA. Get your mugs, your Chicago swag here with the L. There you get your L pillow or the CTA train card. Got candy. Hey, the Chicago Pope Leo bobblehead, $40. You get Mike Ditka. They got bracelets. Look at these stained glass things they got here. Tiffany glass, postcards. Yeah, so if you want some Chicago stuff, you can get the whole train system map, put it on the wall there, and yeah, you get a shower curtain. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get a train shower curtain. So the disappearing civil liberties mug. That's we all need that. That feels like what we're going through right now. We're losing our rights here. Hey, you get the pizza, Chicago style pizza, Chicago style hot dogs. Get your Al Capone T-shirt. Play Chicago-opoly, Chicago theme Monopoly, puzzles. Yeah, you get the Benny. Here's Tommy Hawk. Here's the Chicago Sky mascot. What's she called here? Sky. Her name's Sky. And then here's Benny the Bull. I don't know where Staley the Bear is. Where's Staley the Bear for the Bears there? We got books. We got some historical books here. A lot of architecture books here. Look at that. Frank Lloyd Wright stuff. Yeah, very nice. So, hey, thanks for checking out there. You get your Abraham Lincoln, get your statue. Fire stuff about the Great Chicago Fire. Very nice. So, hey, this is a nice gift shop here. You get your Dia de los Muertos, a key in Chicago. Yeah, look at that. Very nice. Well, I like these hats. Give me a hat like that. So, hey, we're past my time here, so thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you for tuning in. We'll see how much of this recorded or not. I'll try to cut out clips if anything worked here, but thanks everybody for tuning in here. This is the Chicago Historical Society. I got to go get my coat here, so I'm going to sign off. You see, it's right across the street from the Moody Bible, or the Moody Church here, that beautiful rotunda here on Clark Street. And so, hey, have a good rest of your Friday. We'll see you after 5 o'clock tonight on YouTube, and we'll just walk around the neighborhood there. Thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great day, and we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks, time, Christy, Margie, D. Michael, the whole mod team. Sorry I missed everybody's comments, but it's the nature of it here. So we'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye.